July meeting of the Goochland County Economic Development Authority. We need to determine if we have a quorum. Sarah, you want to call the roll?
Sure. Mr. Bitek?
Here.
Kiernan?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Sloan?
Here.
You do have a quorum?
All right, and then we'll move on to the citizen comment period. We do have one citizen here. Does everybody know Neil Spoonhour?
No comment for your
Running for District 2
Here.
Supervisor.
Oh, wow.
Welcome.
Thank you.
No comments?
No, thanks for your service.
Okay. All right, then we'll go on to approve the minutes of our May meeting, as we did not have a meeting in June. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the minutes?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of minutes.
Any second? Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes for May are passed. And we will move on to the scheduled matters, the first being the strategic plan adoption.
So we just needed a formal vote. I believe last time we gave an endorsement and let the board do their adoption, and then we would come back and adopt it and make sure there's no changes between the board meetings. So just a motion and a second and a vote to formally adopt the strategic plan.
And nothing really changed.
Nothing changed.
Calling for a motion to adopt the strategic plan.
So moved.
Second. No, please. Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Madam Chairman, can I just add, just a reminder, we will be bringing you back probably before January 1, the third leg of that school, which was the tourism one. It's underway right now, and so that will come back to you yet, hopefully before the first of the year.
Okay.
And we'll be asking you to reconsider that one and re-adopt that one as well.
Okay, so it is, do we need to amend the motion?
You're fine as if
Fine.
you just adopted what's
Okay.
been presented today.
Well, then the adoption carries for now. The next section is about the Virginia Farmers Market Association's tourism grant. Opportunity came about last month when we did not have a scheduled meeting, and it was a timely matter as the Virginia Farmers Market Association had to submit their grant. So this is almost a formality because we did in fact participate in the grant, but we do need to vote on it. But I would like to just kind of give you a little idea of what it entails. As the state's Farmers Market Association, they applied for a Virginia Tourism Corporation Marketing Leverage Grant and wanted to have, I think there were maybe 7 or 8 different markets around the state participate, as well as other collaborators, or I can't remember what the term that they used, supporters. Partners,
Yeah.
community partners. So the Goochland County was asked to be a partner, as well as the Economic Development Authority, because Mannequin Market is one of the markets that's participating in the statewide initiative. And it will be a marketing initiative that will essentially help the farmers market to be kind of a conduit to disseminate information within the county that market resides or city for other agritourism venues or events that come up. And they are, as part of the grant, creating a statewide agritourism trail map that will be digital and print. And there's a lot of other print things that they'll do. So it will really help Goochland County get on the map. Literally, they would put a part of it would put a road sign for Mannequin Market on 64, different things like that. So it's really kind of a formality that we, because we had to submit the paperwork already. We will find out in September, and it will be an 18-month. No. 18-month grant. So it will really serve us for the 2020 season, but we'll start working on it in the fall. And as the Commonwealth of Virginia recommended to the Virginia Tourism Corporation that they adopt, or that they approve us, I think we have a pretty good chance.
Good.
So I think we need a motion.
Is there a button for that?
It's just we just applied for it, yeah.
Yeah.
We won't know until September whether we actually get it or not.
And is it just the mannequin market? What about the?
Just mannequin market, but there are other markets around the state that are participating.
What about other markets in Boothville?
It only pays for that particular market,
Okay.
yeah. But it doesn't mean that we can't disseminate information about the other market as an agritourism venue.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, the motion carries, and
Can I add something to that?
Oh,
One
yeah.
thing, you had asked about the courthouse market, and one of the things that is being recommended to the full board of supervisors at the August 5th meeting is, we always do a true up with year-end funds at our August meeting, and then they'll get formally appropriated in November when the audit's done. But I've included $75,000 for a courthouse area study. One of the things, if you're familiar with, we just had a rezoning case here on Reed Marsh, and a lot of the feedback we got was, well, what do people want the courthouse to look, feel, be like, what the walkability of it, the types of shops, if you want it to be a destination, do you not? And right now, we don't have any real formalized plans. We have sort of an overlay district in part of the courthouse area. That's it. There's no different kind of standards. We are dealing with some of that in the zoning rewrite, but not complete. Many jurisdictions designate either villages or what they call hamlets or smaller zones, and they come up with design standards for them. But also what it is, it includes a number of community planning charrettes that allow residents to come in and engage in that process, property owners, businesses, and often in those processes, things come out of, I anticipate we're going to hear more walkability in this area, and we have a lot of gaps in our walkability in the courthouse area. I think we're going to hear more about just access to retail or different kinds of restaurants and those kinds of things. There are limitations, just on, if you recall, just back to the Mexican restaurant discussion. In the courthouse, we have some standards that probably may not make sense. And so we're trying to make sure that we're looking to design this area, and this may be a model of how we handle other villages like Centerville and others in the future. But this is also the opportunity where you get to talk about what kind of community features do you want in a courthouse area. Is a standing market something we want to have in our courthouse area? Do we want to promote smaller, independent kind of retail spaces for people? Doesn't mean we're building them. It's always going to be built on private property and those kinds of things. You have different densities for zoning for certain kinds of things. Those kinds of discussions occur in those plans, but it really allows a lot of citizen engagement. And I think there's a real role for the EDA, should this move forward, to be at the table in those discussions, especially as we talk about Main Street, Goochland, and the Fairgrounds Road Extended is supposed to be for a business corridor. What do we want that to look, feel like in the long run? And how can we make the courthouse, especially as we finish this tourism leg of our strategic plan, how does that fit in as a tourism destination for the region? We have components of things that are good, but is it enough? When you go all the way from down over Maidens and the Tucker Park all the way up to Hidden Rock Park and all the courthouse in between, we have some really great features, but they're not really collective. There's not consistent theming. And so, we have lights that stop in certain areas, and we want lights more in other places, and we want more sidewalks. And I don't know the answer to all that. And that's what this process is designed to do, is to engage your public and have those conversations. But I've done this elsewhere, and things that come out of it are, well, we want to make sure that we have benches and trash cans throughout our walkable areas. We want a market in our areas. We want shops that have a distinct look and feel of a rural country setting, not of an urban setting. And so I think there is really a role for the EDA to be at the table if and when the board approves that process. But that's being proposed for consideration at the upcoming meeting. So it's something, I don't know exactly when we're going to start that. It's an extra project that CD will have to plug into. And we already got a lot on their plate. So, but I do anticipate if they support the funding, we would get underway with that in the next year. And so, but I think there's some opportunity for us to really think about, from a business perspective at least, how do we fit and plug into when we start planning these villages or other kinds of destination areas.
One other thing I forgot to mention, oops.
Just a real quick query, on the other property that was under consideration, is that still moving forward, at the end of the Thompson property?
I have not seen anything new on that. Now, there was 2 prospects on that same property. I haven't heard anything yet.
Which property is that?
The Thompson property, which is down at the end of, is that Catholic? No, it's,
Scott Road?
Scott Road.
Scott and Gathright are where they kind of
Towers,
intersect.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just curious if that had,
I believe it has switched developers, and I haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah, I would say, I know the history is every 6 months or so they come back to us with either revision or maybe they add a few houses. When I started here in the county, it was like 300 houses, then went down to 100, so up to 200, then down to 150. So they've been sort of going back and forth on what actually works for that land. But the last thing we heard, I want to say, was probably 2 months ago.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I've had active discussions with one, it's a property owner and a separate developer. That developer is backed out of the project. And so and rumor is they're working with someone new. So until they really submit, it changes fairly often.
I think kind of where I was going with it, therefore the traffic study has not been completed either.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, they haven't done that. That would be a requirement, because if you've been back in that area, some of those roads aren't the best. They probably require
Yeah,
some
and I was
improvements.
curious about the turn signals if on
Yes.
522 Slit 6 River Road.
There was a fair amount of resident opposition to even the earlier concepts, and I think that developer has a lot to overcome to make that project make sense.
Thank you.
One other thing that I wanted to bring up is that for the farmer's market grant is that Mannequin Market, EDA, and Richland County all have to track and measure whether this grant is actually increasing certain data points that we, collect information. We already do that at the farmer's market, but Richland County and EDA really didn't have a baseline to start from, so Sarah worked diligently on coming up with some points that we can actually try to measure. Do you remember what some of those were?
Yeah, some of them were social media, followers and interactions on social media. And then some of them were number of, I think, like the county views, some of their parks and rec numbers, like people coming to county facilities, increasing that. And I had another EDA one, and I've forgotten. I should have looked at it beforehand.
I forgot to, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to track
Yes.
whether the marketing initiative is really helping us to increase our tourism. Okay, moving on to the county administrator update on the broadband initiative.
Okay, this is actually going to be 2 parts. I'm going to talk to you and close on a portion of this discussion, but I wanted to give you the framework of some of the work that we're doing, and then talk to you about some of the solutions enclosed in partnership with EDA. I think if you recall, you just supported us with the CVAC incentive grant as a pass-through for any tax increase, incremental tax increase. We are starting, actively, since I've been here in the past 3 years, every internet provider that shows up in the county, we meet with. We try to figure out what it is we can get them across the finish line to provide services in our unserved and underserved areas. To date, the board has adopted basically a policy statement of saying what we're going to do when we get those providers. And that basically gives me direction and authority of what I can negotiate with when I meet with providers. And to date, that basically has been, we have towers, we'll work with you on a low to no interest lease on our tower. We have fiber that we potentially could let you utilize at a low or no cost rent kind of thing. It has not resulted in any additional service for our residents. We received an unsolicited proposal from a company that has agreements with surrounding jurisdictions, and after research and discussion with all those jurisdictions, we did not award them a contract with Goochland County because they have not met their deliverables in all the other surrounding counties. What I thought would be worse for our residents, rather than hyping something that, because at the end of the day, once we establish a contract with them, that means we're sort of endorsing this partnership with a third-party provider. If they're not performing, providing something that's not performing to our residents is no better than, it's almost more frustrating than not having anything at all. And I don't want to give hope. I went through that process in Hanover, and then the provider just went belly up, and then it wasn't good for our residents. What we did end up doing is say, look, we'll let you do a pilot for free. Come in here, pick a geographic area, serve them, prove to us that you can serve. And when I say for free, no tower rent. Once you do that, then we can talk about expansion into other areas of the county. We've talked to 2 companies about doing that within the past 3 months. They tell us they're going to submit proposals. We host the regional coalition on broadband internet service provision for Central Virginia. We've hosted every 6 months. Goochland County has hosted Louisa to Cumberland to Powhatan, all the way up to Charles City, New Kent, Hanover, Henrico, Chesterfield. Town of Ashland's actually participated in trying to come up with coalitions to find ways to solve this problem for our residents. We are all struggling with the same problem. Half my meeting that I just left is all of us struggling with this. There's a lot of grants that are coming out from USDA. State has increased their funding support for rural broadband expansion. But there are requirements that they're expecting the jurisdictions to have ready to go to be able to be participants in these applications. I give you this background because our old approach is not working. And so I've been working with Paul Drumright, many of you know Paul, who has been working even before I got to Goochland on the broadband issue. And we are coming up with a more comprehensive strategy that we're presenting to the board in August. And I wanted to come to the EDA first because I think there is a role as it relates to rural business internet service provision that we're also lacking in. You guys were very supportive of the CVAC agreement. There are a few additional steps that we're going to be proposing, and so by late August, early September, if I can get EDA endorsement and board endorsement, we're going to roll out a new proposal to share with our community, but not only, I wouldn't say more importantly, but certainly as important is a proposal that makes Goochland more attractive as a business destination for internet service provision. Right now, what we've been doing and the incentives or the tools we've been using aren't getting us further along. And so we are working on a pretty comprehensive plan that hopefully will bring additional services to our residents. And I think there is a role for the EDA to play in that should you be open to those discussions. And so in close, I'm going to be talking to you about a couple opportunities on how to partner with what I'm proposing to the board in August. If we all get on board, we would roll this out. All this would have to be adopted publicly, so there's nothing I'm saying that will be closed door deals. These are all things that we're going to talk about a collective strategy to better solve this need for our residents. One of the things that I will be doing as soon as August 5th, the board has had, we have funds that we assign that basically sit in fund balances, and then until you appropriate funds, they're not in a position where you can actually spend them on projects or investments. And so August 6th for us, I will be asking the board to appropriate $50,000 that they have had an assignment to do a comprehensive study of Goochland County, not like the old study. There were studies done in the past that basically not only identified where we have gaps in service, but they also tried to identify sort of solutions to your problem. Every county that spent money on a project like that basically scrapped their study, because providers would come in at the end of the day and say, that's great that someone did this study for you, but I can't implement it because my technology doesn't work with the technology that your study was done with. And in the past 5 or 6 years, the internet technologies, especially in rural areas, probably have changed 3 times. And so the studies now are a lot different. They're basically true propaganda kind of studies that identify every type of service provision you have in a community, exact gaps. They're also topography oriented. They include drone surveys for topography benefits. It's basically something that a provider can use to basically day one implement technologies. Part of the reason I'm asking for the board to do this now is all of the grant funding that's out there. If you do not have the study, there's two criteria. If you don't have the study done, you immediately are disqualified for applying for the grants. The second part, and equally as important, is they're requiring you to have a partner lined up before you can apply. And so it's harder to get the partners if you haven't done the study. If you're asking them to do the study without a return on their investment, there's almost zero chance of getting those kinds of relationships. And so if we take care of the study side of things, and it's not the be-all, there's still some more providers have to add to that piece. It's going to position us much more attractively to get new providers into Goochland County. And make us much more positioned to apply for the grants. I do think most of the solid expansion we're going to see is going to be through the co-ops like CVAC. CVAC actually has gotten approval to go on Dominion lines as well. And we're trying to encourage CVAC to expand out of their network. Paul and I met with them recently. They are actually ahead of schedule, which if you would have asked me 12 months ago, they told us so there's going to be a 5-year build out for their entire network with fiber. And that's 2 houses, by the way. I would have told you they've underestimated by 5 years. They just told us they were 6 months ahead of schedule. When I'm saying ahead of schedule, this is they're running fiber overhead on all their power poles in their network. CVAC has had to create a subsidiary, which is who we actually entered the agreement with. They're not allowed to run an internet service provision through CVAC. They had to create this internet subdivision. Our hope is we're going to get them to further expand and bring other providers in. So the study is a critical key point. The other part I'm going to talk to you about here shortly, in trying to help make Goochland, when you have limited number of capable providers, what differentiates us as being their point of investment versus the next county or the county over? And that's what we're trying to facilitate more expeditiously. And so I'm not sure I got quite the silver bullet to solve this problem for us, but I think what I'm proposing is going to remove some impediments. And we owe it to our residents to, I spend more time on internet service provision than many other things. Lately it's been voter issues, but internet service provision is probably the #1 complaint I get from residents. And the tools to date that we've been proposing haven't worked. And so I'm hoping that what we were able to roll out, if the board adopts and you, with your support, by the end of August, September, we're going to have a new platform to put forth to our community and to the provider community. And so it's sort of a broad overview, but I'll talk to you a little bit more about some of the strategic kind of pieces.
How long does it take for them to do the study?
Comprehensively, once we award, we can have, depending on what levels and what we include in the study, and we're still debating that a little bit. If we want to soup to nuts, there's pros and cons to going soup to nuts, or doing different phases of study, and waiting to do the other phases until the provider's actually chosen. The quick answer is less than 6 months, once you get started. But if you phase it, it might take longer. And so I think that I'm getting general support from the board on this. I won't know until they vote. On the study side, the other piece, I'm talking to you guys about first, so we'll talk more about some of that in close.
Okay, moving on to new business update.
So we have currently 9 active projects that we're working in terms of people considering the area for their business or expanding their business or putting down their first brick and mortar. So we're excited about that. We have Phoenix Rehabilitation, which is just up the street right next to the chamber. They have their ribbon cutting, and it's probably one of the largest ribbon cuttings I think I've seen. So that was really nice. It was great to see a lot of community folks come out for that. Sarah and I met with the folks at Drive Shack about 2 weeks ago. They're hiring about 300 people.
I saw that
Yeah.
article today in the paper.
Yeah, so they are starting their interviewing process. They send their management teams kind of down to Florida. They do some management training there. And then they hire about 300 workers here in terms of part-time, wait staff, customer service, etc. So they're really ramping up. So we've connected them with all our local and regional workforce partners to see if we can't get them connected with everyone and get those applicants coming out. Yeah.
Just drove through the city, they have billboards along
Yes,
95
they
going
do.
through the city. I saw 2 of them just in city proper looking to hire for hiring.
Wow. They're running Facebook ads like crazy. Every time I feel like I open it to post anything for our economic development page, it's, hey, come work for Drive Shack. You know, we're hiring 300 people. We need you.
No clues, that big.
Yep.
How's the 2 projects going? Is there competition going?
Top Golf.
Top Golf, yeah, thank you. And Drive Shack, I mean, how's that shaping up?
I think they're racing against each other to get
Are
over
they?
first. Yeah.
Yeah, first one done wins?
I think it's a semi
And
competition.
Drive Shack just got their CO and their final approvals and everything last week. So they're looking to do like a soft opening. Their field is not ready yet. So their field won't be ready until like early fall. But they want to go ahead and get their building open and get people
Start
coming for the
serving
restaurant
meals,
aspect and things like that. And just so you know, they are very community oriented. They said that Drive Shack, that's what they do, is they come into communities and they want to help give back, build, and grow in their communities. So he asked us for resource connections, so we hooked him up with Urgent Cares and lots of different local. So, I mean, and he's just been out meeting with folks. And they are very, very excited to be here and looking like they're going to rock and roll. So, oh, and just to give another example of kind of like, somebody asks you, what does economic development do? So here's a perfect example. So we're meeting with Drive Shack, and he's like, I want to get some beer in my, for our restaurants. Do you have any connections? And I was like, hello? Yes. So I provided him full connections and introductions to all of our breweries, all of our wineries, and all of our cideries. So ideally, he's going to have Goochland-based beers and cider in Drive Shack in Goochland County. So, yeah. So sometimes it works. So,
Good story.
yeah. So additionally, we've been talking about the VA scan and putting all our buildings and sites and making sure we have kind of this comprehensive list so that when the state goes looking for buildings and sites, it's kind of the first place they stop. So we started the year at 3. After Q1, we were at 28, and we're now at 57.
Good for you.
So we've made a really big impact on that, and we've already started to see the return. We've started getting projects from the state going, hey, saw this site, or do you guys have this, or whatnot, so.
That's great. That has taken a long time to get to there.
Yeah.
What's some of the information that's inside of these scans that you have to punch in? Because that's a lot of work going into that.
It is. So it's all the utility information, so who the provider is for gas, electric, water, and fiber. But it's all about the size of the site. You have to include the maps, the flyers of any of the broker information, the topography. It's if it's a building, you got to break it down, especially if it's manufacturing, square footage by office, ceiling height, space between columns, etc.
Wow.
So
And you have been physically entering all that information.
it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Once we're at a good number now. It's a lot of it now is making sure that it is up to date, so that we're not getting phone calls and going, oh, well,
Yeah.
Here's 7 properties and 6 of those are out of date.
Yeah.
So luckily the VA scan has a thing, and it makes you touch every property every, I think it's 6 months. So it's like, hey, you haven't touched any of these properties, and so it reminds you to go back through and go and reach out to all the brokers again and say, hey, is this still available? Has it sold? Is it off the market? So trying to keep it up to date. And then the last thing is Sarah and I toured the Woodrow Wilson Workforce Center. 2 weeks ago.
Where is that?
It's in Waynesboro.
Waynesboro,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting place. I knew nothing about it. They have a lot of kids coming out of there, and it's another potential workforce option as some of those kids are looking to come to kind of the Richmond metro area. I don't know how to really explain it, but they have a variety of different programs. And some of that is incorporating people who have had major lifestyle changes, whether that's a health disorder, an amputation, something like that they are now trying to have to relearn how to work in a workforce situation. So just kind of adaptability and things like that. But that's it for new business. Any questions?
How'd the sound check go? Do you know?
I'll defer.
I can speak to that. We actually had 10, this is for Innsbruck, if you're unaware. Okay, just want to make sure everyone's. We had 10 employees. This was during the day. It's a lot easier for us to collect 10 employees, even though with a small staff, we were able to get 10. And some people had to kind of drop what they were doing to help us out. But we distributed to 10 locations, all somewhat within a mile radius of where Innsbruck was at, or where they're looking at by the Markel soccer fields. I went and saw their setup. They had this big boom crane that went up in the air, and it held 15 massive speakers, and it was just blaring music. And it was funny to watch all the Capital One employees that parked there go to their cars. And they were wondering why they were blaring rap music. But I was actually stationed over in Creekmore, and I heard absolutely nothing. I heard just crickets. There were basically, if you're outside of the 1 mile radius, there really wasn't much noise at all. But I also had 288 between me and the venue, if you think about it that way. Mm-hmm. However, there were some of the other neighborhoods nearby, Huguenot Hills, Pagebrook. I think Huguenot Hills heard the most noise because it's right there. It's north of Patterson and south of West Creek Parkway, so it's right there. Sorry, it looks like you have
No, I was just trying to picture in my mind.
Oh, where we're at?
Yeah.
Okay, you know where the Markel soccer fields are?
Yep.
Inside of West Creek Parkway?
No, but I mean the neighborhoods you were talking about.
Creekmore Estates is west on Patterson. So if you're going west on Patterson, you pass West Creek Parkway 2 times.
Okay.
It's probably another, I don't know, quarter of a mile maybe.
Okay.
Right before Richmond Country Club.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I know.
right before the country club. You wouldn't know it's back there really, but they
Yeah.
built those new condominiums right there
Yeah.
on the side of the road that you see in the trees, same area. Somebody else was far on Mannequin Road, or Monacan, a little farther northwest of me, and heard nothing. But again, we were the 2 that were on the other side of 288. So you got 288 traffic. Honestly, I didn't even 288 traffic. I just heard crickets, but people who were closer did hear things. We had somebody stationed at Bristol Apartment Complex, the brand new apartment complex that's right there in Broad Branch. They definitely heard some music. And, so that was really the feedback that we got from employees who were out there. So.
Some other subdivisions were more impacted than ones that are closer. There's one that's not quite as built out, but it was clearly audible right off of Route 6. This is an interesting project from a recognition kind of standpoint. There's some value to it.
Yeah.
Capital, there's next to no capital investment. It's all tents and temporary kinds of structures. They are, and this has been shared with them, they're facing some public safety challenges, both on fire and rescue and on sheriff's side. Traffic is some of the issues, and parking is some of the issues. Noise is amongst them as well, but I do think there's some real challenges for that venue that are, they still have to go to the planning commission and to the board of supervisors. I don't think that it's an automatic kind of concern. With the size of our public safety, when Henrico can assign 20 people to an event like that. We assign 20 people to that. I just shut down all almost my whole sheriff's department. And there's ways around that, and contractual ways, and all those kinds of things that can be dealt with. But I do think that there's some challenges they're going to have to overcome. We've been pretty upfront with the promoters and those kinds of things. And so, community meeting was a little mixed. And keep in mind, one of the things, obviously Hardywood's very close to that. Hardywood has an outdoor venue that has a maximum occupancy of 1,500 people. We already received complaints about the noise that Hardywood's venue creates. They're going to average about 8,500 people at their events if Innsbrook were to relocate. And they're considering calling themselves Scoochland or something. The size of acts, and pyrotechnics and all those kinds of things, it's just a different animal than what Hardywood does. And we receive almost weekly complaints on Hardywood now.
Sorry, I was getting there.
I'm sorry, almost weekly complaints on Hardywood?
Yes, yeah, mainly from the Henrico side of the border.
Yeah.
So Henrico's planning department's going.
Just give us that road.
There's, yeah. We're being recorded, so I'm just gonna.
Ding, ding.
We're on record, so I'm just gonna smile.
Were any of you stationed in Henrico?
We did have 2 employees stationed in Henrico, one on Old Stagecoach Road, and I don't remember the other road name, but it was right across the creek, and it was sort of, I'm trying to remember how they categorized it. It was like low audible, like they could hear it, but it didn't seem to be very loud. Keep in mind that this location is also, I think it's a quarter mile farther into the county than Hardywood is, and Hardywood speakers were facing Henrico. I think they turned them, Henrico can still hear them, and the Innsbrook event makers is the applicant. Their speakers would actually be facing Henrico. I mean, that's how they did the sound test. They faced it to Henrico and had us all around. So there was opposition from some Henrico employees, citizens that were there. There was a Henrico planner who was at the community meeting. But the big outspoken people were really from Henrico that came to our community meeting. So
It's probably a stupid question, but is there any way of combating the noise, like a noise attenuation, like in an open office, you put white noise through speakers or something like that? There's no way of keeping it contained, and it is a dumb question. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I mean, I guess there's always walls. It depends on how much money you want to throw out. There's always walls and things.
Yeah, you can't put in bank, and it's in certain sound, but it's still
going out.
Still going out.
Okay.
Foo Fighters would like that.
So we'll see. We'll see. They're moving forward as the planning commission, I believe, is August for them. So
Sorry for that diversion.
Can our roads handle that much traffic in Innsbrook? Or, not Innsbrook, Westbrook?
they did. I didn't actually see they call it TIA, traffic impact analysis. I didn't actually see it. Tom Coleman's actually in charge of that. But what they presented to us, I think there were some issues as far as level of service go in certain areas, but I'd have to get back with them to let you know exactly what that is. So.
I'm pretty sure their impact does fail certain intersections at certain times. And so, but even in Henrico, they're all failed. They do that through traffic control and those kinds of things.
Yeah, the one that already is failing is Broad Branch. Should probably start out with that. So they just exacerbate the issue that we already have at Broad Branch and West Creek Parkway. So it's already failing, and this would just make it worse.
So what would they have to put a light in? Maybe?
We'll see. Let's let them move through the process.
Anything else? Any other new business?
That's it.
Okay. Moving on to the treasurer's report. Oh, We have, oh, marketing review, okay.
Yeah, so I've got some.
Existing business, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I've got some updates on existing business efforts. One of them being always mess up their name. Community College Workforce Alliance. I always want to say Central Virginia. I don't know why. Community College Workforce Alliance is offering a customer service class at the Goochland Reynolds campus starting in August. So I've been promoting that out to our businesses. That is a nationally certified customer service class, and there is grant money available through the state for our businesses to utilize. So if you know of any businesses that can benefit from it. They're really trying to put a lot more classes out here at the Goochland campus, so that's good. Since we started making connections with them and asking them, so they had their truck driving class out here, now they're doing their customer service class out here. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Also, you can take one and pass it down here. Here's what I was talking about the other night. If you guys could come, I would really appreciate it. It is the grand opening for Virginia Axe Company. So typically, a lot of grand openings are done through the chamber, and we attend them. They have opted not to join the chamber at this time, so I offered to promote a grand opening for them. So they're going to be doing free axe throwing, have some food and drinks. And
Is that a Monday?
It's a Monday.
Uh-huh.
So they're,
I'm on there.
yep. I think I've already sent out a calendar invite. Yep.
Yeah, I think you did.
And,
Yep.
yeah, so good. So it's on your calendars. But I just really want to support them. You'll probably be seeing more of these coming out of our office as a service to our smaller businesses that are opening, that don't really have the capability to do it, or that they don't join the chamber to do it, so.
So there's actually adult beverages and
There-
axe
no.
throwing?
Not adult beverages,
Not at all?
kid beverages.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but if you want an adult beverage, you can go right straight to menu.
Oh, they don't sell it, so seriously, they
I
don't
was
sell
gonna
it.
say, how are you gonna make money?
Yeah. They're going with no alcohol at this point in time in their business, and see where it goes from there.
There are others that do include.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask what the strict rules would be, because
Yeah.
that could get dangerous quick.
Midnight actually currently on Thursday nights, I think it is, hosts axe throwing. It's not these guys, it's a different company.
It is. Yep.
Interesting. Thank you.
I have started officially the BRE visits. I had my first one with Performance Food Group this past week, so that was fun. I went with the state existing business person. So we had a really good meeting, and they were very happy to see that we're out meeting with businesses, and we're starting this new process for them.
Who did you meet with?
I met with Tammy Cummings.
And she is,
She's the vice president
oh,
of Performance Food Group here in Goochland. So they are headquartered in Goochland. They have 18,000 employees across the nation, over 80 distribution locations. They've just acquired a company, Reinhardt, and added about 5,000 employees to them. So what they do is they keep all the companies that they acquire, they keep their headquarters in those locations. So they don't necessarily bring them all here. Some of the takeaways is that they would like to see some higher-end restaurants or some mixed use in West Creek and in Goochland, so they can have places to go when they get off of work. He said Hardywood has been great. Some trails in West Creek, which I know the county is already working on. So I was able to check that and say, hey, yes, we know we're working on it. So along with that, I wanted to show you what I am giving out to them. Get your feedback on it. So this is this is a bag that I took from another department. So I haven't gotten our bags yet. But in this bag, if you'll take one down and pass it around, they get kind of a handout of services that are provided to our existing businesses. It's front and back. They get a handout on what we're doing for workforce, what I've learned is that workforce is one of the number one kind of issues that are facing our existing businesses, getting them, retaining them. So we've made a lot of workforce connections, and a lot of partners that kind of do recruitment, and they'll hold job interviews and job fairs and do all sorts of good stuff. So I wanted to kind of spotlight that. They also get a Goochland County pad, Goochland County clip, got our logo on it, Goochland County pen,
Wow.
and then some information on some of the CCWA training courses that they have. So that's what I've been starting to give out, and
Hopefully next year we'll have a map to put in.
that's right, that would be super cool. The other thing that I'm going to start doing is when I get a new business that comes into the county, here, happens to you guys too. I'm going to be sending out a letter in the mail to them. So it says, "Welcome to Goochland County. We are glad you are here." I'm going to write a handwritten kind of, "Hey, my name is Sarah," put my business card in there, let them know that I'll be reaching out to them in the next couple months, have our social media and all that good stuff on it. So that is I feel like it took me forever to get all of this stuff, but now that it's done, I'm ready to hit the road.
Nice. Tools.
Yes, I know. I didn't want to go knocking on doors without just saying, "Hey, I'm Sarah." Who cares?
Yeah.
So I wanted them to know that we're here and that we're offering them some services. So
Okay.
that's all I have.
Now we can do the treasurer's report.
Okay, that's going to be short and sweet. I think everybody got a copy of the Economic Development Authority fiscal year bank activity with the package. Nothing really going on, few interest payments, and I think since last meeting, really nothing on the expense side, and a couple of interest deposits. I will note at the top of the report that we are now with the local government. We may have been for a couple of months, but I missed the last meeting. I know we had one meeting that we all missed, but the local government investment pool is got a good chunk of the EDA money right now. And if you look further in the report somewhere, it shows that we're getting around just around 2.5%. The yield for June was 2.479%, which is a better rate than we've been getting. Our chair and I were talking before the meeting and discussing that we still have that one Essex bank account that I think reached maturity this year, and I think we missed the opportunity to convert that, but hopefully that's the one that's dated March 27, 2020. But we should be able to convert the second Essex Bank one in September of this year to the local government investment pool, and bring in a few more dollars.
Get on my calendar.
I mean, I suggest there's nothing wrong with pulling it out now, because I mean, really,
Yeah, it's a small penalty.
it would be a penalty that would actually be easily, I think, taken up by that return we're getting.
Yeah, and I did an analysis.
I
I
know.
apologize for not remembering it, but I've laid out what the penalties were, and they weren't significant, that was my recollection. But so we could do exactly what you're saying.
Pull it out.
The Essex one was a little bit more.
A little more, yeah. But if you, I mean, I'll be glad to go back and review that and see if there's, my recollection is you're exactly right, Ben, it's not a huge amount of money. And if, I can get back to you on that. I've forgotten what the analysis showed.
Well, if you do it between now and our next meeting, then we'll be ready in September that one's gonna turn over anyway,
Do
so
them
we'll
both, yeah.
just
Yeah,
maybe
pull-
do them both.
Yeah.
Further,
Okay.
I'll
I'll
return.
Okay.
do that.
And no bills to be paid, I don't think. Any other business?
The only thing I wanted to bring up is that, as you can see in her absence this evening, Ms. Galitz is not the official EDA secretary, so I think next month we'll do a vote to transfer that role over to Casey and I. But I wanted to know if you wanted to do something for her next month, and if you will maybe vote to allow me to spend up to a certain amount of money, I can get some kind of flowers or present or gift card or something like that that you guys can present to her at the next meeting or whenever she can come. So,
Yeah, I think we should do something.
I'm just, what is this?
Appreciation for Lisa.
Appreciation, oh, okay, I'm always appreciative of Lisa.
I know.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
is there an amount?
But I'm also thinking, in the past, what we've also done is had actually a dinner,
Okay.
where, and so we could do a dinner and then a combination presentation of gift.
You know, if we do a dinner, is that an official EDA meeting?
The way we did it, I believe before, was declared it, just in the event somebody wanted to attend, and then we actually, I know I always paid for my own meal, and then the recipient, we always paid, with prior approval, out the EDA funds for their meal and gift, or plaque, or whatever the case may be.
That would be nice too, in addition to a gift, I think.
Okay.
So we'll work with Lisa and look at the details. We want to do it, we can adjust the time that you meet and do like 5 to 5:30, and we have the meeting right after, slightly before 5. And just tie it together so we're not coming back at 2 different times. That's
Yeah, we can do
okay.
that.
Yeah.
And do it at a good Slim restaurant, so we give them business.
Right.
We just have to notice where we're hosting the meeting and event. So we'll be okay. Try to coordinate that.
Okay. Nice, thank you. All right, well, that, we will go into closed session. So, I will officially adjourn the open part of the EDA meeting for this month, and we'll go into closed session.
Sure, you have a preference did you take the vote?
Right,
I need
to read and then take the vote, and then I'll
Yes.
stop this. Yep.
I'm doing it now. In accordance with the provisions in sections 2.2-3711 and 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia, I move that the Goshen County Economic Development Authority convene and close meeting for the purpose of discussion of a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made in the businesses or industries interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community as permitted by section 2.2-3711, section A1. And for the purpose of consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the Economic Development Authority as permitted by section 2.2-3711, section 3 of the Code of Virginia. There's an mouthful.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I-
Aye.